So let's backtrack here.
Yeah, let's do.
You couldn't have her put her number in your phone because rotary dial phones don't save numbers.
They don't. That's extremely, yeah, you're accurate on that.
The Catwalk podcast showcases the greatest of the people of the Permian Basin through partnering and conversation with high-level leaders, social entrepreneurs, nonprofit leadership, and industry executives.
Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Catwalk this week. I'm your host, Jay Whitlow. Thank you so much for joining with us. I want to introduce to you our special guest today, Tasha Stephens. Tasha grew up in Farwell, a small farming town on the border of Texas and New Mexico. At the age of 7, Tasha moved to Clovis, New Mexico, where she graduated high school. From there, she attended South Plains College in Levelland, and after just 1 year, she moved back to Clovis to take on a role in the hotel and hospitality industry. Following several years in that industry led her back to Midland from Amarillo. Tasha is an advocate for fostering and adoption. She is the director of the Midland ISD Family Support Center and serves faithfully on the board of 311 Ministries. Tasha and her husband, Daniel, have 4 kids and an amazing story, which you will hear next on the extended version of the Catwalk.
Elevate your operation with Performance Chemical Company, the pioneers in redefining chemical solutions for the oil and gas industry in the Permian Basin. Unveiling groundbreaking ideas since 2017, our dry chemistry plant stands as a testament to innovation. Our products and services revolutionize water treatment, production, midstream, and saltwater disposals. We're your strategic partners in optimizing investments, slashing operating expenses. Performance Chemical Company. How you get there matters.
Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Catwalk. So glad that you're joining with us. I'm your host, Jay Whitlow, and as always, sitting right across from the table from me is the great Chris DeGaulle. Chris, what's up?
Oh, not a lot. How are you?
I'm doing well. I want to introduce you and our viewers and listeners to our guest today. Sitting to my left is Tasha Meeks Stephens. Welcome to the Catwalk.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited that you're here today. We have a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to unpack there.
The first thing I want to say is that you and I serve on 311 Ministries board, and yesterday was the vote for vice president of the board, and I am going to now give my concession speech because I lost to you by 1 vote. And I'm sure that everybody would be very happy to know that I lost.
No, that's not true.
So I will concede to you as winning the vice president. So congratulations on that. But we
Thanks,
do
Jay.
serve together. 311 is a great ministry.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've had Sally on before. Great ministry. But I do want to ask Chris a question. Chris, how did you propose to your wife?
So my wife is from North Dakota. And when she moved down here, there was a lot of Texas she'd never seen. And she has 2 sisters that live in Austin. And so we had made this big plan to spend a few days in Austin that she kind of see sights that she'd never seen. And I'd been planning around proposing for a while. I hadn't quite figured out how I wanted to do it. And then I'm like, so this whole trip is about kind of showing her Texas. And so I was like, what is the most Texas way that I could propose? So I've got a buddy of mine who's a DPS officer. And this was like late COVID, so the state capitol was still closed. You couldn't really get on the grounds.
Right.
Well, he got me on the grounds, and I was going to show her the capitol. And then as she was checking it out, she turned around, and there I was proposing to her.
I love that.
And
So you were on the ground?
yeah,
Like
I was-
laying on the ground?
Yes, that's exactly how you would have done it, Jay. You wallowing in the dirt,
Well, you haven't heard mine
asking
yet.
your wife, being like, "Will you marry me since I broke your leg?"
No, it was ribs.
Ribs.
It was
Okay.
ribs. Get it right there. But yeah, when you say you're laying on the ground, I'm like, wait, you're laying on the ground, but
I
you were
was
standing on the ground.
I was kneeling.
kneeling on the
ground.
ground. Okay, that's awesome. And y'all been married how long?
Well, 2021 was when we got married.
Okay, So if my
September
math
edition will
corrects,
be 3 years.
3 years. I was going to say 3 years, right? Okay. Tasha,
Yes, sir.
how did your husband propose to you?
Oh, that's a very unique story in itself. So, Daniel and I met at Crude Fest, which I'm sure a lot of you know what that is. I was actually visiting in town, and long story short, we met during the Josh Abbott performance, and I pretty much knew right off the bat, okay, I think I'm going to marry this guy, and he pretty much knew the same thing. Well,
And you met him at Crude Fest.
at Crude Fest, of all the
So you
places.
knew you were going to marry this guy from Crude Fest.
I know. It was a God thing.
That is awesome.
It was a God thing.
Okay.
So, anyways, a couple months down the road, we knew that we were talking about getting married, and we had this Vegas trip planned. And my mom said, do not go to Vegas and get married. If you do that, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And so, whatever. So, we get to San Angelo to go see Josh Abbott Band right before our flight out to Vegas. And on stage, Josh Abbott Band pulls me up, says, you're winning a t-shirt. Congratulations. I get up there. I'm so excited. And I'm holding this t-shirt up. And this t-shirt says, Tasha, will you marry me? And I turn around and Daniel's on his knee. And the whole audience is just screaming. So he proposed to me at a Josh Abbott concert.
That's
Yeah.
pretty cool right there.
He pulled some strings, made
Yeah.
it happen.
So my question though is, you guys were in San Angelo before your flight to Vegas. So there's flights out of San Angelo to Vegas?
No, which is funny because I'm so gullible sometimes. So the plan was we were going to fly out of Dallas, but Daniel was like, honey, let's go see Josh Abbott in San Angelo the night before we fly out. And I'm like, well, absolutely. I love Josh Abbott. Why not? You know, gullible me. He had the ring in his pocket the whole entire time. I mean, it was so funny. He was teaching his mom how to work the camera. He had another one of my friends that just showed up there and I believed it. I was gullible. Had no idea it was coming. Yeah.
So his mom was in the audience.
His mom was in the audience
taking-
recording. Yeah.
So this is out there for everybody to see, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, it's on YouTube.
We'll have to look that up. So Josh Abbott, that's pretty cool. So you're a big Josh Abbott fan,
Love Josh Abbott.
right? So Crude Fest, that's the big concert out here.
Yeah, I was down the road from here.
So did he buy you a corn dog or funnel cake? What was it that you were like, this is the guy I want to marry?
It's kind of funny how I approached this situation. So, I was just having a good time dancing, enjoying the music, and his friend came up to me, a girl, and she said, hey, my friend back there thinks that you're really pretty, but he was so shy. He wouldn't approach me. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I turn around. I'm like, hi, I'm Tasha. You know, me and my big O personality.
Yeah.
And just broke the ice. So we started talking and put my number in his phone that night. And every day since then, we've not missed a single day.
Now, you just said something that dates you, or dates me probably, and Chris will have a heyday on this one. You put your phone number in his phone. And see, back in the day when I was dating, we just slipped them a piece of paper or a napkin with the phone number and said, call my answering machine, and my answering machine will call you back, right? Because we never answered our phones back then. But that's part of the, and thank you so much for not saying that you met on a dating app.
No, that was
Chris?
new when I started
on.
dating.
Chris?
So let's backtrack here.
Yeah, let's do.
You couldn't have her put her number in your phone because rotary dial phones don't save numbers.
They don't. That's extremely, yeah, you're accurate on that.
Hey,
Second, meeting on a dating app in 2018 is perfectly normal. If you had a dating app that wasn't
I
on
would've
a
never got married.
chisel,
Yeah.
like a stone and chisel, back in the caveman days.
send the pigeon with the
Moses'
Right.
tablets.
Send
Yeah.
a message by a raven.
Absolutely.
A raven?
Yeah,
That's funny.
Old Game of Thrones stuff.
Hey, but I did grow up in the time where you call the phone, and if it's busy because you're on the internet, then you can't get through.
Oh, I remember those
If
days.
you're on the internet, you better forget about being on the phone. So I know the struggle when it comes
Yeah,
to
but
that, too.
thank you for the rotary phone comment. That's brilliant over there.
Rotary phone.
All right, let's get to know you a little bit more because there are some really fascinating pieces to your story that I want our listeners and viewers to know. So start from back in Farwell,
Farwell.
Texas, and kind of walk me up till you get to South Plains.
So, I mean, I grew up in Farwell, Texas, small farming town for those of you who may not know what that is. My father farmed for most of my life. My parents got divorced at a young age. I went to Clovis High School, which is about 8 miles away from Farwell. And then from Clovis, graduating there, I went to South Plains College. Right off the bat, I knew I wanted to do something serving others, so I went for rehabilitation psychology. But I just got distracted. My head wasn't there, and I didn't really want to be there anymore. So I took on a role with the hospitality industry. I was able to move back to Clovis and become a hospitality manager there, where I did my career there for a little bit. And then I moved to Amarillo to the other hotel property that the owner had there and worked there for a little bit. And then from there, I came to Midland to Crude Fest, and my life was in shambles. And I was just... That's how I met Daniel, and that's where that part of the story begins.
Tell me about growing up. Your parents divorced at 7. What did that do for you as a 6, 7-year-old in that stage of your life?
It was very hard. Obviously, a 6 or 7-year-old can't comprehend those kind of big things, and life was us there on the farm. It was us as a family unit, and my world was turned upside down whenever they got divorced. My mom struggled with wanting to move out of town with us, and so I just remember that very vividly, and I don't really tell this story often, but I remember on the porch the day that we were leaving, and my dad's not a very emotional kind of guy, and my mom was like, okay, well, we're going to move to this place and this and that, and my dad's telling me, you could probably stay, or I'm gonna miss you, just having that conversation. And I remember being a 7-year-old, and he had a hole in his shirt. He was wearing a work shirt, and I was sticking my finger in the hole, trying to, I don't know, I guess comfort myself or something. And I was telling my dad, it's gonna be okay, we're gonna have a new house. I mean, that's how much I didn't comprehend what was going on, and my dad was upset and emotional about it, and that's the first day I'd ever seen my dad show any kind of emotion. And so it impacted my life for the rest of my life. There were lots of struggles in between then and now, and growing up, and my mom getting her feet back on the ground, and my dad changing his career, and lots of different things in between that.
So growing up on the farm, did you drive a tractor?
All the time. Daddy's girl on the tractor all the time. It was the thing, Would mom make lunch, we get on the tractor, always constantly working, sun up to sundown.
John Deere?
John Deere? Absolutely. I took my senior pictures on a John Deere tractor.
No, you didn't.
I sure did.
Oh my gosh. Chris, you did senior pictures on a John Deere, didn't you? Your family owned John Deere company, right?
No, we didn't take pictures. We owned them. We didn't take pictures on them.
Because you owned a John Deere.
Yes. My uncle owns a John Deere repair.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad is the diesel mechanic there.
Right. But you didn't take pictures on a tractor or combine?
No, my pictures were far worse.
Where were they?
That'll cost money to find that out.
Okay, well then I don't want to go there then. It's a family show. All right, so you had the struggles. Were you an only child, or did you have brothers and sisters?
No, I have brothers and sisters. So I have 2 older sisters, both from different marriages, and then I have a brother from the same marriage. So my father and my mom have me and Dakota. Dakota and I grew up the closest, and then my older 2 sisters, Callie and Tiffany. And Tiffany is the oldest, and then Callie comes, and then it's me and Dakota.
Are you guys close?
So Callie passed away a couple years ago. Tiffany and I are pretty close now, and Dakota and I are probably the closest out of everybody. Dakota and I grew up a little bit closer in age and around the same household kind of stuff. And so Callie passed away. I didn't have a relationship with her because my mom gave her up for adoption whenever she was a baby. And so the adoption, we rekindled with them, and we met Callie and had a little bit of a relationship with her, and then she passed away last year.
So you're at South Plains, and you're getting that degree in business management, or what was your degree in?
Rehabilitation psychology is what I was seeking.
Yeah, it was a big word for me. I can't say that. Management sounds better. And so you left South Plains and started just trying to find yourself in your career journey.
Yeah.
Took you to Amarillo, back to Midland, all in hospitality. What was the best part about that season, or what did you learn the most about yourself during that time?
I've always been independent. I've always learned to be independent. I feel like that's something that both of my parents raised me to be, and also a product of, a young child going through divorced parents. And from the age of 15, I started working, and I knew my whole life that I wanted to serve others somehow. And so the hospitality industry had always been of interest to me, and I loved being able to meet new people of all different backgrounds and getting to socialize and helping people out. And I just loved that industry a lot.
So what was it that when you came back to Midland that you said, I'm going to pivot, I'm going to do a career change, or were you just trying to kind of float by until you really found what your next step was?
Yeah, so from Amarillo, I was in a relationship there, and I had a really ugly breakup. I was distant from the Lord. The guy I was dating was an atheist and very different from my beliefs. And we had an ugly breakup, and I came here to visit my mom. And my mom and my stepdad are both in the oil industry. And it was just like, I'm at a crossroads here. What am I going to do? And I had went to that concert with my mom, and I had met Daniel. And I knew in my heart that Daniel was going to be special to me. But ultimately, I had to think about the bigger picture. Am I going to stay in Amarillo and try to pick up the pieces and still be lost doing the same thing, partying, being distant from God, working all these crazy hours, struggling? Or am I going to try to change my life around and just do something different? So I decided to take a leap of faith and move to Midland, and I stayed with my mom here for a little bit and got in with Midland ISD. So Daniel's mom works for Midland ISD, and I was very close with him throughout moving from Amarillo to here. And Debbie really encouraged me. She's like, get on with MISD. I mean, it's a great open door for different opportunities, and she has been with the district for, I think, 25 years now. So I just applied, and I got in, and I started as a maintenance clerk. So I've kind of just changed different pathways through MISD, but I've always stuck with MISD since I've been here, and here I am.
So you maintenance clerk, you worked your way through to right now the MISD Family Support Center director or
Coordinator.
Coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about that position.
Yeah. So as a clerk in the maintenance department, I moved to a technologist, and I was a computer technician for quite a while. And then I had Lakeland in 2019. I stayed home for a little bit with her just to, do the stay-at-home mom thing. And when I went back to the district, I went to the purchasing department. But I was still, I had something missing. I felt in my heart that I had a calling, and there was a position opened in the district for the Family Support Center. And I'd seen them in the admin building doing blanket drives and food drives and stuff like that. And my passion is giving back. And so when I saw that opening, I tried to snag it as quick as I could. I went down and I talked to the director, and I talked to the lady that was going to be leaving. And I said, hey, I really want this position. I'm very passionate about people. I'm very passionate about giving back, and this is my dream role. And sitting in the interview with that being said, I told Jill McCall, she was my boss at the time who hired me, I said, this is my dream job. This is what I've been called to do. I have been called to serve other people, and I couldn't think of a better time to do that. And so I got the job by the grace of God, and it's just been a huge, huge blessing.
Who do you serve?
We serve Midland ISD, students, families, and employees. So that's the only exception to our services is anybody associated with Midland ISD, basically.
What's been some rewarding moments that you've seen serving at this Family Support Center? I'm assuming you've met some really interesting people that maybe have transient people that have moved in, maybe some homeless people. Kind of walk us through what a day in the life of the support center coordinator would be like.
So just something interesting about the Family Support Center. We started off in a closet with minimal supplies, and that was right before COVID, and that was right before I came on. But during COVID, we would do drive-through boxes, and so they would hand out those food boxes. People would come through the parking lot and collect those, which then turned into a facility inside of the admin building. And I don't know if you know what the admin building looks like, but it's obviously 7 floors,
Difficult to maintain.
difficult to maintain, has an elevator too, kind of thing. And so our facility serves people who need things. And so being in that building had been a struggle to get people to seek help from us, because you're going in there and you're feeling like, man, this is really nerve-wracking. I'm having to carry my groceries down in front of important people. And so it was a dignity thing for us. And so when I interviewed for the position, I told Jill McCall, she said, what is your goal here? I said, I want to double the numbers and get a new facility. That's my main goal in my first year. I want to double these numbers and I want to get us out of here. And so from the very get-go, I just hit the ground running, looking for different places that we could move, and which is interesting because that's how you and I kind of crossed paths at first. Yeah, so I started planting little seeds everywhere, and then my coworker Vanessa came on with me, and we finally got blessed with the facility. Midland ISD had an open facility that used to be the ropes course at YWLA, and it was just empty. It had been sitting there for years, and agreed to say, hey, let's do this. And so we just moved into our new facility back in March, and we have since quadrupled our numbers.
Just doubled, but
quadrupled. Yes. So we've grown and grown and grown, but since the new facility, we've quadrupled. We haven't had a grand opening just yet, but we're seeing lots of different people. And kind of circle back about what you asked, on a daily basis, how do we serve others and who do we see? We see lots of different circumstances. We do see those who are transient, or those who are McKinney-Vento, which is technically homeless. We see people doubled up all the time, living with relatives or living with friends, living in RVs. Just today, I've helped this girl who has escaped domestic violence, and she's about 4 weeks into Midland, and she came to me when she first got to Midland, and she was just lost. She didn't know what to do. She didn't have many resources, and she used her income tax check to buy an RV, but she couldn't get qualified for food stamps. So we were trying to help her out with groceries and towels and blankets and different things to get her on her feet. And then today she came back right before I came over here, and she got herself a car. She has her RV. She's getting her 8 kids to school. 8 kids, yes. So she took on a couple of her unbiological kids, and she's raising them as her own, and she's picking up the pieces. And that right there is the most rewarding part of my job, is seeing people use the tools in this community to better themselves and to just fight through all the struggles.
I applaud you for the work that you've done, because to have the goal of doubling and finding new space, and you blew that out of the water by quadrupling it. I've been to the space. We've had some meetings there. I think it's great. It's over by the Young Women's Leadership Academy. So I think it's been great that you guys have that space. You brought up something earlier about the dignity of the people walking through that administration building, and they're seeing high-level executives and teachers and administrators and stuff. That has got to be humbling, to walk down with groceries that you've been given free for. But I applaud you for moving out of that space to first think of the client, the person that you're serving, and I think that's brilliant. One of the things I think that I admire about you is your leadership in 311, not just because you beat me in the vice president
I'm never going to live that one down.
vote, but just the way you do lead in that. Talk a little bit about your leadership style, how that's worked at the support center, and how you are applying that with what we do at 311 Ministries.
So I have to joke because I'm pretty bossy. It just comes naturally. But I've always had that leadership role, no matter what I've done in my life. And that comes from a very, very young age. And my parents have instilled that in me, and I love that characteristic about me. I'm very much, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to make it work. I'm very determined. And my husband probably thinks that's a blessing and a curse because he's like, she's going to get what she wants no matter what gets in her way.
Yeah.
And so with the Family Support Center, like I said, I just had that passion, and I saw the look on people's faces when they would come in and they would try to get assistance and they're lost and having to face other people. And I hated that. I hated knowing that families who needed help had to come in and face strangers and walk through a building and go up the 4th floor and get their groceries and go back down. It was a barrier, and it really just shed a light on how much it is dignifying to be able to do things privately sometimes. And so being at our new facility and being able to give those wraparound services better than what we were able to do before. I mean, now we can host things there. I mean, like the board meetings, but not only that, but family engagement stuff. So we can have families there at the support center doing reading nights and collaborating with different agencies and hosting our backpack bash and really just being a home and a safe place for people to have those resources, whether that's printing out a job application or doing a college application or getting enrolled in school, or if you just need food. We want to make sure that every one of the needs that somebody has is met.
Sure. And 311 takes care of MISD students as well.
Yes.
So it's kind of a cool marriage that you're involved in the support center and in 311 and how you can overlap some services, but also provide some things that maybe one of the other organizations doesn't. So I think that's really cool. Have you ever walked out of a movie theater and not finished a movie?
No, never.
Chris? I know you have. Probably Ghostbusters.
No, not that one. Yes, I've walked out of a couple. There's one that I wanted to walk out of, but I didn't.
What was that?
Dreamgirls.
Okay.
But yeah,
Family show.
I just
Oh, you're being honest. That's right. Yeah.
I
Thank you.
just
Thank you for your honesty.
wasn't vibing with the movie.
That's funny.
I've fallen asleep.
Yeah.
In Dreamgirls?
No.
In another movie?
In a movie, yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
But yeah, there's several movies that I walked out of. Most of them you probably wouldn't have heard of, but they were pretty crap.
I walked out of Zookeeper.
Zookeeper,
Remember that movie?
yeah.
I would have
James?
walked out of that one if I'd went to the theater.
Yeah, it was horrible. That was unbelievably horrible. Walked out of that one. But I've walked out of several. I don't remember or want to mention what they are, but I've fallen asleep in quite a few movies. That's
too.
true. Do you think clowns are creepy?
I think they're overrated creepy. Like, I think people make it more dramatic than what it is. So, no, I don't think clowns are creepy. I think that people think clowns are creepy, and that's
I
just
agree with that. It's
Oh my
it's overrated.
there is
Y'all are insane.
there is a bit of an uneasy level to clowns because most people who, especially the way media perceives clowns,
Yeah.
is that they're always the drunk, worn out guy who can't get a job being a clown, right? And then when the clown scare thing happened in the media, it was just, oh, they're coming to get you. So I think the eerie part about being clown is that the guy's painted on his emotion. Right? No idea what's behind the paint.
Who's hiding behind the suit
Right.
kind of thing.
And other than that, no, they're just a dumb attraction.
I saw a meme the other day about clowns, and it was like, I think the time that the clowns invaded us was much easier than today. Remember all
my
that
gosh.
social media
I-
stuff?
that's
Like,
true.
I tweeted the other day, I was like, so does anybody remember where you were when the clowns started creeping out of the woods?
yeah, exactly. I think that's
I
overrated.
hate clowns. I don't care if it's clown at a kid's birthday party. I don't care if it's the drunk guy that's clown that can't do anything with his life or whatever, or if it's the rodeo clown. Anybody who has makeup on, not everybody who has makeup on, anybody who has makeup on with a red nose and there's just the clown in general. And I think it's because I got scared really young with clowns, but clowns are creepy. And there's it was Journey that sings about the clowns, the group Journey. Isn't there a line about them since the clowns?
I don't know. I don't keep catalog of when clowns are mentioned in music.
Oh, it just drives me insane if anybody talks about clowns. So if you really want to get me, have a clown jump out or scare me around the corner or whatever. But I think
Noted.
clowns are
So
insane.
clown act for the 311 fundraiser.
No clowns at all.
Okay.
I know you will.
Got a donor.
All right, I want to jump into something that I know you and I have talked a lot about, and that is fostering and adoption. And you have you're an advocate for both of those, and there's reasons why you're an advocate for those. So I would love for you just to kind of share your journey and your story through that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, don't mind at all. So, right off the bat, when Daniel and I were engaged and getting ready to get married, we were going through a scenario where my sister, who passed away, had a child, and we were given the option to adopt. And so we were literally walking down our aisle the day of our wedding, and my mom was about to get on a plane to go to California and do the first court hearing so that we could, get custody of him. We worked for a whole year through that process of we are going to be the placement for him. We're going to get custody of him, adopt him. He's our biological nephew. That was the plan from the very get-go. But very early on, we realized that the ICPC process with foster care is almost, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but there's lots of barriers. And it's very hard to complete, especially in a timely manner. And Texas and California don't necessarily see eye to eye when it comes to those laws. So after the 6-month mark, when a child is in somebody's custody, the person who's had the child for 6 months of their life or more has more rights to a child than the biological family does. And so even though we were getting ready to close out this process, we had followed and checked off every box. And I'm telling you, when I have never been so determined to do something, it was to make sure that this got done. And I would call every day, and I would be the squeaky wheel that gets the grease all the time, and probably the bug in everybody's ear, because the caseworkers would get fed up with me just trying to call and check on this process. But this little baby who should be with his family is still sitting in California because this process is just another file on somebody's desk. And that was the frustrating part of that all. So past the 6-month mark, we would keep in contact with his foster mom, and she would send us pictures of him, and we would, talk back and forth, and every intention she knew we were obviously going to bring him home soon. And we went to our final court hearing, and the caseworker on the case went against DFPS. So he basically said they've had a change of heart, they've lawyered up, they want to keep him, and it would be unfair to take him from his culture and Compton, California, and put him in Texas with his family. And it was just a complete shell shock, a slap in the face, if you must. We were not prepared for that, that she had wanted to keep him. She was an older woman, and I'm not saying that that's something that would be a barrier or something that would keep anybody from adopting, but she had no intention to begin with, and she got attached to him, which I understand that point of it too, because I fostered. But we had been led on a whole year of bringing my biological nephew home. He was mine in my heart. Mm-hmm. He was mine. Every day I prayed and I thought about him, and I wanted to bring him home. And so we had a second court hearing. I said that was a final, but there were 2 court hearings. We went back for that final court hearing after she had blindsided us with wanting to keep him. And the judge ordered her to let us see him a whole week out of the time that we were there. And I just remember having this funny feeling about everything. And they made it nearly impossible for us to see him because they would not show up, or they would say, oh, just kidding, here's a change of plans. And it was just, it felt off. And we still did it. We still persevered, and we still tried to show up to visitation and made all of those visits with him. And I remember very clearly, it was just my mother-in-law and me. My mom couldn't be there, and Daniel was so busy with work, and he had my niece and nephew at the time because we were taking care of them as well. And we're driving through traffic, and they're like, oh, you have to have a car seat. Well, okay, that's fine. We'll get a car seat. We'll stop and get a car seat. But it was just like random weird things that they would just drop a bomb on us and right before these visitations. And so we stop at a Walmart, we get a car seat, and I'm literally in the middle of Los Angeles traffic, which I don't know if you've ever been to LA, but it is it's very stressful on those freeways. And I'm sitting in the back seat, Jay, trying to figure out how to get this car seat harnessed into the car. I've never worked this kind of car seat before, and we are like 20 minutes away from this place. And if we are not ready and showing that we have this car seat, I was just fearful that they wouldn't let us see him. And so, anyways, it was the longest 20 minutes of my life, I felt. So we finally get the car seat in, and we get to the visitation. We get to see him. We had our whole week of visitation, and then we finally had that court hearing, and the judge granted the foster mom custody of my nephew, and it was just heartbreaking. His biological sisters were in the courtroom with us, their dad, my whole family. And I hate talking about this topic, but it's real and raw, and I feel like there needs to shed light, and I don't talk about this much. I haven't even really shared the story because it's still so raw on my heart. But racism goes so many different ways, and we were sitting in the courtroom, and it was just like they didn't want my biracial nephew to go to his biological family, who's just a different culture and a different lifestyle, I guess, than what he had been raised in for that year of life. And it just really shocked me, and I was blindsided by it all, and it crushed me, really, it did. And so I just remember the flight home, and our attorney that we had hired said that she had never seen any more wrongdoing in a case in her whole entire career, and she had been an attorney for family law for 20 something years. And I mean, we could file appeals and we could try to do all these things, but I blame myself because I was so naive about the process. I thought, and I trusted in the system so much, that we were going to get my nephew and bring him home, and I failed to get an attorney from the very get-go, and that's what I should have done. But we were always...
You failed, or the system failed?
I blame myself sometimes because I just was so naive to it all. We didn't get an attorney, and had we gotten an attorney, maybe it would have been a different story, but I can't go back and change that now. But the system definitely failed us. I mean, they talk about keeping children with biological family all the time, but I just have to go back, and even in the time that I felt so numb about it all, I have to go back and say, there's a reason, obviously, and I know that God has a plan for everything. And that right there was just a huge shift in how Daniel and I wanted our marriage to be. And we started off fighting for this child, and then we got my niece and my nephew for a year, and then we knew we wanted our own children. And so we started the journey to try to have our own children, and then through the midst of this adoption found out that I had PCOS. And PCOS it's a devil. It's
the devil.
It is. And we just started seeing the regular obstetrician and trying to cure the PCOS and figure out what we could do to finally have our own children. And that grew to about 3.5 years of infertility treatments. We saw several different doctors. We did several different procedures. I always felt like a failure, and I'm sure that you guys can relate to this. I know your story a little bit, but every single month it's a repetition of I failed. Like, why is my body not doing what I need it to do? God created me to be a mother. I feel it. I know in my heart. And seeing negative tests every month, and then just the marriage part of it. Things are so clinical. Like, everybody's like, "Oh, that's the fun part of, trying for children." No, it's clinical, and it puts a wedge in between the two people who are trying for children, and it's so timed, and it feels unnatural. Forced, absolutely. And so we decided maybe we should just foster. We have a passion for children. We have a passion to be parents. We know that the foster system really needs solid families. And taking that loss of my biological nephew, we thought maybe it would be a positive thing to become foster parents and try to get the better side of the system, I guess you could say. So we went ahead. I mean, we were already certified to foster because we had to go through that whole process, right? So we reached out to the caseworker and we told her, hey, we want to open our home to other children. And so went through that whole home study and getting ready. And so we got certified like right at the end of September. We went on vacation to Florida. We came back and they called us and they said, we have a sibling group that needs an emergency placement tonight. There's 3 little girls. And we're like, absolutely, we're ready. We're like looking in the foster care room, like twiddling our thumbs, waiting for somebody to come, you know, that we could bless and that would bless us. And so they came that night. And of course, when you foster children, sometimes they come with things and sometimes they don't. And so these precious little girls.
How old were they?
They were 6, 5, and 1. We got the 1-year-old on her first birthday. Yeah, and so
Good ages.
I know, it was such a sweet age. So here we are, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night with these sweet little girls who just are obviously so confused, but we're making the best of it. They don't have anything but the clothes on their back. And so Daniel and I load them up with the car seats and put them in the car, and we go to Walmart at 9 o'clock at night, and we're like, each of you can pick out your own blanket. Because, I mean, we had our room ready, and it was all so special. And I will say this, that the room that I had prepared for our foster children was a place of peace for me. I just put so much love and thought into the different decorations, and I don't know, it just brought me so much peace. And I probably because we were trying for our own children and we were so passionate about having to be foster parents, but we had things for them, but we wanted them to feel more welcome. I mean,
Ownership and
yeah,
something.
yeah, and that they were special and that they get to choose things, like you said. And so they went and picked out some stuff at Walmart, and we went home and we had them for about a year while we were trying still for our first child. And boy, foster care, that's a whole other ball game. It's a blessing, I will say that, and I would do it again in a heartbeat, even though every single week when you're having to meet the bio parents and have to regroup, and it's just like a repetitive cycle of learning the steps of children and discipline and heartbreak, because they would see their mom and it would be like having to just go back from the first step because
Start
they're
all
so
over.
confused, and bless their hearts, I couldn't even imagine. But it was a roller coaster of crazy is what it was. But every single minute of that was such a blessing. And those little girls changed our lives for the better. And so we had them for a while, and then November comes around and we get a call saying, hey, we have a little baby in the NICU and she needs a placement today. Well, I had
Already have the 3,
already have the 3.
right? Okay. So now you got this one coming.
Yeah. And of course we're trying. And of course I'm obsessed with taking pregnancy tests. And I took a test that morning. It was positive, very faintly, but it was positive. And then that afternoon we get a call that we have a baby from the NICU, and I'm scrambling and I'm telling, Daniel, and I'm telling my mother-in-law, I'm telling my mom, I'm telling everybody, there's this baby that really needs us. How do I say no? So we're like, okay, we're gonna do it. But they don't know that I had that positive test.
Yeah.
So we go to ORMC and we get the baby, and of course you have to go through all these hoops with NICU babies because they have to sit in a car seat for 2 hours, and they have to pass the test, and they have to do all this other stuff. And
Been there. Yeah.
the foster caseworker said, you don't have to bring anything, because we didn't have anything for a newborn baby. We had our 3 girls and we were doing life that way. And so they're like, just get over here as soon as you can. We're thinking, okay, they're going to have a car seat for us. They're going to, have all these different things. And we get there and the baby has nothing. We don't have anything.
Right.
I mean, it was crazy. Poor thing. She had her white onesie on And that's what she went home in. And I hate that because, I mean, normal
Yeah.
parents get to prepare and have the pink car seat.
Normal parents.
There's nothing normal about my life or parenting, I'm sure. But we got to bring her home that night. And sweet little girl, she was so precious. She had a very unique story herself. We had her for about 5 months, but her mom was addicted to drugs whenever she birthed her, and she had drugs in her system, and it was very heartbreaking. She had her in the toilet in a backyard kind of thing. It was just a very, very ugly, heartbreaking story. But the mom had her pimp sign over, like on the birth certificate, that the baby was his, even though the baby wasn't his at all. But she was trying to get him to, have the baby and so that they can take him back. And anyways, they fell through because obviously they couldn't pass drug tests and they weren't showing up to visitations. And this all was just a crazy, like I said, roller coaster, most of every foster story is. But 5 months down the road, we're thinking, okay, we're coming up on our 6-month mark. We're going to adopt her. We've got the other girls. We have a really good relationship with their mom. She's probably going to get the girls back. And, we were blindsided again because the guy who signed the birth certificate had rights to the child. And even though he wasn't biological, and even though he wasn't showing up, and even though they couldn't pass drug tests and they weren't doing anything, his family was entitled to the baby.
Wow.
So we were blindsided with, hey, we have a relative. It's the gentleman's.
Strike two.
Yeah. So I remember, gosh, this is hard. I mean, everything about this is hard, but I remember the day that they told us that she was going to go to a different home, and I show up to the daycare, and I just remember sitting there in the parking lot like, this is it. We've had you every single day. This is the last time I'm going to pick her up. And it's hard because you get attached to them and you think we're going to keep them forever, and it doesn't work out like that. And then your plans aren't what God has planned, and then you have to question everything about your faith. And I mean, I never questioned God's faith to me, but it was hard to see the longevity of everything, And so
You got me tearing up over
I'm
here.
sorry. Here you go. Here's the tissue. I told you I didn't think I was going to cry.
Chris is not
Jay.
tearing up. He's a big dude.
So I packed her up that night, and I put all of her pictures on a thumb drive because I wanted to make sure that she had everything, and that part of her life wasn't forgotten. And the caseworker came and picked her up, and that was that. But it's just like, man, another slap in the face. Like, I just felt like the system had failed us over and over again. And that's so disheartening because I hate that I'm not the only story, or, it's just, there's so many people out there who have these heartbreaking stories with the system, and it's so broken. And I wish that there was something that we could do to fix it, but it's just so far gone. And the only advice I could give anybody is, while it is hard to foster and while it is to go through the steps of the system, these kids need us. There are so many kids out who still need.
Don't give up.
Yeah, don't give up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Still.
Now, in the midst of this, what happened to the positive test?
So I was pregnant after all.
You haven't said anything.
I know. Sorry. I need to go circle back. That was a lot. So yeah, I told Daniel a few days later. I brought the baby home. Everything was crazy. Of course, we have 4 little girls now. And we were getting ready for Thanksgiving. And we have this stinking tile board in our living room, and you can change the letters on it. And Daniel loves to change it. And he was sitting there, we got to get ready for Thanksgiving. Everybody's coming over. So he's sitting there changing the tiles. Of course, I'm scrubbing the floors. Daniel loves to change the tiles.
Right.
That's his thing. I'm like stressing out over cleaning. He's stressing out over the tiles. Well, he's like, what should I put on the board? And I'm like, you should put bun in the oven. And he's like,
See if anybody gets it.
well, he doesn't know at this
he
point.
doesn't know.
No.
Oh, my goodness.
He has no idea.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, put bun in the oven, and I'm recording him on my phone.
Yeah,
I'm just sitting there, And he's like, what? And I'm like, put bun in the oven. And he's like, are you pregnant?
Wow.
And I was like, yeah. And so,
Yeah.
of course, yeah, I'm pregnant. We're finally pregnant, you know? And so, yeah, we celebrated, obviously. We were so happy. And then Thanksgiving came the next day, I believe, and that was on the board. You know, we put that message on the board. And so here comes everybody walking in, and I'm recording everybody's reaction. And people are so oblivious. They don't even read that sign that Daniel put so much effort into, right?
Oh, fun in the oven.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, Mom, can you check and see what that sign says?
Hey, we're having biscuits.
Yeah. So she's like, bun in the oven. Okay, do I need to get it out? Like, she doesn't even know what's going on. I have a recording of it. It's hilarious. But both moms were very shocked, and they were all both so excited. Everybody was so excited for us. But then you have to face the ugliness of that part, too. So the happiness didn't settle in because I tested, and then I had to go do blood work. And the blood work was not viable. The doctor was saying, your numbers are too low. They're not doubling. It's basically not a viable pregnancy. And before we got pregnant with Lakeland, we had a miscarriage, and I knew how this was going to go. And I mean, I still held on to my faith, but I was so afraid of the same thing repeating itself and starting off with those numbers. And so every other day I would have to go to the doctor and get my blood drawn and make sure that my numbers are increasing. And because I had a miscarriage before, they put me on some medication to help with my hormones, because basically my hormones were crazy. PCOS causes all these different health issues. And so I was having to take hormones and see if the pregnancy would continue. And I just kept praying and praying and praying. And thankfully, she just grew and she grew and she grew by the grace of God. And we had 4 little girls the whole time I was pregnant with her. And then our foster baby that went to a different home, that was a heartbreak, but I was, pregnant with Lakeland. And it was so much of this bittersweet craziness going on that life just threw it all at us at once, but we did it. And I remember when we found out she was a girl, we had our little gender reveal, because those are a thing now. It's crazy, the parties that we all have these days. But I wanted to shoot my wedding dress with paintballs. I don't know why. I don't know how I got this idea, but
What?
it was just sitting in my attic. I'm
You're
like, yeah,
let's
do something different. Everybody does all these different things for gender reveals. And I told Daniel, I said, how about we put the color of the gender at the paintball gun, and you get to shoot it and everybody finds out. And I just remember everybody being so happy we were finally pregnant. There were so many people at our gender reveal. It was just a blessing. And I went around with my phone recording everybody. What do you think it's going to be? Team boy, team girl? And of course everybody's like, boy, 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 because we had 4 girls. Like, come on, we're not going to get another girl. Well, to our surprise,
She was a girl.
she's a girl. Yep. So Daniel goes shooting that paintball gun, and it was yellow at first because my gender keeper, my best friend Ashley, she had put yellow in at first so that it would get a couple test shots or whatever. And so everybody was really confused at first. And then the pink came out, and I'm jumping up and down, and Daniel's still shooting. Like,
That's funny. Yellow. Which one is
yeah,
that?
yeah. And he's just trying to see if the paint will change colors, I guess. He hates when I say that because he's like, no, I was just trying to finish the paintballs off. But I think he was just waiting for it to turn blue or
And
something.
how old is she today?
She's 4.
She's 4.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to the foster girls?
So that's a beautiful story too. Right before we had Lakeland, we knew that their mom was getting her stuff together, and I had a really close relationship with Mom, which is unique because a lot of foster families and bio families don't have a good relationship. But I wanted that for our girls because ultimately that's their mom, regardless of the decisions she had made or the struggle she's had. And really and honestly, I don't agree with some of the decisions she made, but that right there was just a lack of resources. She was a single mom. She couldn't get things together. She just couldn't do it on her own. And that's another reason why I'm in this role today, because I want better for these moms. I want them to know that they have resources. But anyways, there at the end of it, she got pregnant again and kind of fell off the deep end. And so we were like, what are we going to do? These girls have 2 brothers that are biological too. And we just don't feel like we can take the brothers as well. And I have a very close friend in the foster community. His name is Aaron Zapata and Julie. And they really were mentors to us. And I just told him, I said, hey, we're about to have our first baby. And these girls, it's not fair to them if, their mom's not going to be in the picture. Like, what can we do? And he's like, I have a very good friend who just got certified who's looking to adopt a sibling group, and their kids were grown up. And Jay, you don't see that. You don't, and that was my biggest fear, is if we let go of these girls, if we don't adopt them, then they're going to get split up. They're not going to have their siblings.
Part of the system issues and problems.
Absolutely. They're going to get shipped off to El Paso or Dallas or whatever. And I wasn't going to let that happen. I would have, me and Daniel would have kept them.
Sure.
So it was just by the grace of God, me venting to Aaron that day and him telling us about the family that had been looking for a sibling group. And I was hesitant of reaching out because I felt like I was failing the girls. But I knew my family needed that time with Lakeland, and I would have kept the girls. We loved them. We loved them so much, but we knew that they needed their siblings long term. And we just couldn't do that at that moment. And so they went for a weekend, and we went off for our little baby getaway before we had Lakeland, and the girls fell in love with the family, and their brothers got to come that same weekend, and the family fell in love with the girls. And it was just like God just really put the pieces together. I mean, it worked out for everybody's benefit, and they got adopted by them, and they, we keep in touch. We still send each other pictures sometimes.
Great story.
Yes, it was just finally a happy story of the system. Like,
But you had another happy story because you just recently had
yes,
a baby.
so yes, we have 4. So Lakeland came along, wonderful. We were talking about trying fertility treatments again. It was a year after she was born, and something random in me in the middle of the night was like, I was eating a tortilla with peanut butter or something, and I'm like, that's weird. But I have
that's
PCOS, so
That's odd.
things are just weird anyways. So I'm like, okay, I'll take a test, because what kind of psychopath doesn't have tests all over the house still? Me. So I'm sitting on the toilet at 12 o'clock in the morning. Daniel's sleeping like a bear, snoring in the other room, and I took a test, and it lit up like a Christmas tree. Instantly positive. I was like, whoa, wow, that was complete. I never had gotten a test like that. Like, it was just completely shocking. And when I tell you that the stars really aligned, they really had to align, because we just weren't trying. I mean, life was crazy, obviously. It was just nuts to me. So of course the next test I took, it lit up again. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Am I going to tell Daniel? Am I going to wake him up?
Yeah.
So I go sit in bed, and I have the lamp on. I'm sitting up, and I'm like, wake him up, don't wake him up. And then he rolls over. He's like, are you okay? Why are you sitting up? And I said, I'm pregnant.
Now he's fully awake.
He kind of sits up, and he's like, by who? I'm like, I cannot deal with you right now. He's like half asleep, obviously. But I'm telling you, when the stars had to align, they really did. So when I told him that, he was just completely shocked.
Wow.
So he sat up, and we talked about it, and went to the doctor, and my numbers were a little bit better this time, but still had lower numbers than normal people do, because I'm not normal. But did the medication, ended up having a sweet baby boy. It was just beautiful. Everybody was like, oh, you're pregnant again. Like, okay, that's great. Wonderful. You didn't have to do fertility treatments. Well, Gunnar comes along, and then we went to see Taylor Swift, and everybody says that we have a Taylor Swift baby now, because Daniel is a Swiftie, and I am not. I do not like Taylor Swift. That's the funny part of this story.
I do know that about him. So
drives me nuts. And now my 4-year-old's a Swiftie, so love that for me. But we came back, and I was having problems with PCOS and birth control again, and I'm pregnant again. I'm like, what the heck? This is awesome. Like, our story is just crazy, and how can we be so blessed? And so right off the get-go, we knew, and we had weight loss surgery in between, and so we were starting to get healthier. Things were regulating more for me, and I was just feeling better, and I definitely say this was a weight loss baby for sure, or Taylor Swift, whatever you want to call it. But we have our baby, and I had C-sections with the first two, which is a huge part of my story that I feel like I have to talk about because I had high-risk pregnancies. I had to have C-sections. I suffered lots of different things during my pregnancies, but this third one, because I'd gotten healthier and had that weight loss surgery, I knew right off the bat, I want to have a VBAC. I want to deliver this baby naturally. And so I really started honing in on the different techniques and, just determined me all the time, constantly, gonna get what I want. And so every single day I listened to podcasts about VBACs and birthing and different stuff like that. And I hired a midwife instead of a doctor, and she believed in birthing after 2 C-sections. And so we ended up delivering our surprise gender. We didn't find out the gender of this baby at all. And I had him successfully the way that I wanted to, and came out a precious baby boy last December. His name is Cannon, and he is so sweet. All of them are sweet. They're all so very sweet. But that was a redemption for me because I felt like my body finally did what it needed to do, and which is silly in a sense.
Years.
Yeah, but after all those years of feeling like I had failed and then having rough pregnancies and all that, finally got the story that was somewhat normal. Yeah,
But
so
it didn't stop there.
did not stop there. So after we had Cannon,
And this was just a couple months ago,
yeah, in
Right.
December,
December.
yeah. So after we had Cannon, I was home for 12 weeks. I wanted to take every minute that I could because I knew I was going to go back to work full time, and I was just trying to soak up my time with him. And one of my relatives, we found out that she was pregnant, and she asked us if we would be willing to take care of the baby. And of course, I and Daniel were both just like kind of conflicted. Like, what do we do here? We just had a baby. Are we going to be able to provide? I mean, obviously, babies are expensive financially. And that was really our only biggest thing was how financially are we going to be able to do this? And we prayed about it. We prayed about it. We prayed about it. Well, we only had a couple weeks to pray about it because we didn't really know what was going to happen. Was she going to be willing to try to keep the baby? We tried to give her solutions and different options and stuff. And I think ultimately for our whole family, we just wanted the baby to be in our family. And Daniel and I seemed to be the best fit in my relatives' eyes for that. And she just came to us and she said, I'm about to go into labor, and would you please take on the responsibility? I know that you'll love her, and I know that you'll give her the best life, and you won't be judgmental, or you won't be broken, or you have so much love you gave me in my life, and I know that you could give me love in her life too. And so I just told Daniel, I said, God's going to provide for us. He always does. He's never failed us throughout our whole entire journey, and that just brings tears to my eyes too. But I just find so much peace and blessings and comfort in that whole situation because look at our testimony. We have been through the ringer with everything, and here God is blessing us with all of these 4 children, and it's just a true testament of his love for us, and I cannot be more thankful. So now we have Lakeland, a 4-year-old, Gunner, a 3-year-old, Cannon, a 4-month-old, and Sunny Girl, she's our little 6-week-old. So we have a 6-week-old newborn baby. Yeah.
I tell you, when you shared that story, it just began to resonate with me, and I was like, I know there's people who are watching and listening who are struggling with infertility. They're struggling with infant loss. They're struggling with infertility, adoption, fostering. Everybody's got a story, and everybody goes through different things. And I know of some people personally who need to hear this and need to be encouraged by what you have shared. And I appreciate all that you've shared. And I applaud you and Daniel for stepping up when things were down, things were tough, and you kept fighting through it. I want to wrap things up with just 2 more questions. One is, who do you listen to? Who do you really admire and allow to speak into your life?
So I've heard this question on other episodes because I love your podcast, but
Thank you.
honestly,
It's because of Chris.
thanks, Chris. I I'm not much of listening to motivational speakers. I don't really read a lot of leadership stuff. I will say though that my faith and trust in the Lord, that's what I lean on. I listen to the word of God. I listen to, those in the church who I look up to. My Aunt Tammy has strong faith, and I really look up to her, but I don't really have a leadership person or a book to read or anything like that. But I will say that my faith in the Lord gets me through everything, and that's who I look up to and what word I live by.
Yeah. With all that you have been through, from a child of divorced parents through all of the infertility and all the disappointments of fostering and adopting and pregnancy and to where you are today, what do you want to be known for?
I think about this, and I really think that I want to be known as the best mom that ever was, obviously, but I want to be known for persevering, and through the storm, I have risen. No matter what life has put in front of me, I have continued to be strong, and I've always given back to others. I want to be known for my heart and my strength.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you sharing today. Thank you so much for what you do
Yeah.
for MISD and for the community through the Family Support Center and for 311 and the time that we've served together on that board. But again, tell Daniel thank you for because it's part of his story.
Absolutely.
And we've said this before. When you go through infertility, you go through failed pregnancies and loss, it's not just the female. It's not just the woman.
No.
It affects the man too. And I'm very passionate about that, of being able to talk openly about my story and to other guys, because it's not what guys talk about, right? And so I appreciate that. So tell him thank you for that. Thank you for joining with us today. I want to make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much, and we will see everyone next week.
Elevate your operation with Performance Chemical Company, the pioneers in redefining chemical solutions for the oil and gas industry in the Permian Basin. Unveiling groundbreaking ideas since 2017, our dry chemistry plant stands as a testament to innovation. Our products and services revolutionize water treatment, production, midstream, and saltwater disposals. We're your strategic partners in optimizing investments, slashing operating expenses. Performance Chemical Company. How you get there matters.